Hi everyone, welcome to Mama Wears Athleisure. I am your host, Mariela de Santiago, a first-time mom. We focus on all things mom with tips to help make life easier and more organized for all you mamas out there. Hi everyone! Today I'm here with Erina, a midwife from Best Start Birth Center in San Diego, and we're going to talk a little bit about what a midwife does and how that differs from a doula.
Hello, everybody. My name is Erina. I am a certified nurse midwife here in San Diego. I was born and raised in San Diego. I did go to midwifery school in Atlanta, Georgia, but I always figured I was coming back to San Diego just because I love it so much. Can't beat the weather. Best Start Birth Center is located in San Diego in Point Loma area. The birth center first opened in 1989, and we were the first accredited and licensed birth center in the state of California. I think with Best Start, the state kind of took ours as an example on how to license and credential other birth centers in California. We used to be the only one for a while in San Diego, but now there's a bunch more that have opened up all around. So that's great.
Just to kind of give listeners an idea, would you mind explaining what a birth center is?
I would say there are three main places that you can have a baby. So first one, which I feel like most people know about, is a labor and delivery unit in the hospital. So you have your provider in the hospital, you show up, you're seen in the labor and delivery floor, you have a nurse who's with you. You usually stay there for about 24 hours and then you head back home. The other one would be a home birth. So that would be within your own home. You have staff that comes to you, usually a midwife, and then they leave and you just obviously stay in your own home. A birth center is kind of like a medium between the two. So we have a homey feel to our rooms. We have water births. So we have tubs in all of our rooms. You have a midwife, you have an assistant at every birth. And so like a hospital, we are in one fixed location. So people will come to us for their prenatal care, for the delivery, stay for a little bit afterwards for postpartum, and then they head back home. We're more focused on natural and low risk women. So in order to deliver at the birth center and start care, you have to be low risk, which certain criteria. So for example, only having one baby, so no twins, baby has to be head down, no serious medical issues. Everything kind of has to be like a normal quote unquote pregnancy.
I feel like I need to do another episode on a birth center. So you mentioned midwife, which is what you are. So let's jump over to that. What do you do? What is a midwife?
I'll start with by kind of defining the two separate kinds of midwives. So there are two different ones. There is a certified nurse midwife, which is what I am. So I have a master's in nursing. I'm kind of what most people have heard of a nurse practitioner. So I'm pretty much a nurse practitioner that delivers babies. The other kind is a certified professional midwife. So they are more under the medical board versus the nursing board as I am. And so theirs is more of a certifying program. They go to school for about 3 to 4 years, and then they have their clinics just like we do. So a midwife is somebody who we see anybody from home births, hospital births, birth center births. As a certified nurse midwife, I can prescribe medication. I can work in any of the settings, as I said, hospital, home birth, or birth center. I see people for their prenatal care. I see deliveries. I do postpartum. I can see women for their well woman exams. So we can do pap smears if needed. We can do contraception, kind of counsel on that and place any that we need. We can do just about everything a physician can do for a low risk setting. Certified professional midwife is more somebody who works in an out of hospital setting, cannot prescribe, but can do pretty much everything the same thing that I can do.
I feel like many listeners might even want to know this. So what are the differences between a midwife and a doula? I feel like you also kind of already answered part of this, but just to better clarify and make sure that we all know, because you can hire a doula, right? You can go online and find a doula. There's so many doulas out there that are super supportive and provide great services, but how's that different from you?
I actually get asked this question all the time. Whenever I say I'm a midwife, people always ask, well, what's the difference between you and a doula? Or are you a doula? A midwife, as we talked about, is somebody who has some kind of schooling, learning, a license in the state to practice. A doula is somebody who's gone through some kind of training and they help somebody get through labor. So they're basically their support person. So not to take over for their partner or whoever their support team is going to be, but mainly to assist. So super important for people who, for example, are wanting to do natural childbirth and have maybe never gone through that experience. It's their first delivery. They can meet with them prenatally a couple times. So that way you're getting to know your doula. They're at your house beforehand during the early stages, which I think is a godsend. It's amazing to have somebody be there to be able to say, this is normal. You're doing great. Let's try these different positions. Let's have a snack. Let's have some water. I think it's time to call the midwife, or I think it's too early. They come with you to the birth center or to your home if you're doing a home birth, or to the hospital. They can also act as your advocate. They're not allowed to give you any medical information, and they're not allowed to give you medical advice. But what they can do is if they're wanting to offer an intervention, they can ask the provider to step out and kind of talk about the pros and cons. And so that way you have a second to realize and figure out, okay, which way do I want to go? So some people also ask, well, if I have a midwife, do I need to have a doula? And I always tell people, yes. Doulas, as I said, they're basically your support person. So while we are also there for your support, we're also there for your medical needs. So we can't 100% focus just on the client. Sometimes we have to chart, or we have to do medical things that are needed. It's nice to have somebody there that's just for you. And some also do postpartum. So they'll come after baby's born and be at your house to help for that too. So I'd say main difference is we are more like your practitioner, your provider, and they are more like your support person.
So a doula wouldn't be able to deliver the baby, but you can.
Exactly.
If somebody is wanting to work with a midwife, let's say they want to do a home birth, or they want to go to a birth center, or they even want to go to the hospital, whatever it is, how are they able to work with somebody? Is it kind of provided to you based off of where you go, or do you find your own? Hey everyone, it's your host, Mariella. We have a giveaway in July. So be sure to check our website, www.mamawearsathleisure.com, for all the details on how to enter for your chance to win an Original Sprout gift set.
I would say there's a couple places to find one, even though I tell my clients never Google anything because there's a lot of misinformation on there. Google is one of the places that you can go and just put in Midwife San Diego. I would say it kind of depends on what kind of birth you're looking for. So if you're wanting more of a natural experience, then potentially birth center or home birth or even hospital would be for you. If you're looking for more, I want medical interventions and I'd prefer to be in the safety of a hospital, then obviously there's different practices in San Diego that also have midwives. I would say some insurance companies are covered. So some people go based on their insurance. So you're able to call your insurance provider and ask for the midwives that are in San Diego. Hospital practices tend to credential with more insurances. Birth centers, we do at Best Start, we credential with a lot of different insurances. So your insurance will pay for your care. Out of hospital home birth usually is going to be cash pay. So it just depends. There was a website that was up and running a couple years ago called callamidwifesd.org. And it had listed midwives that were in a home birth, in a birth center, and then in a hospital. So that would be a potential place to kind of start. And then you can see and call and say, hey, are you still in practice or not?
When or if somebody is considering working with a midwife for whatever location they choose to go with for delivery, what should they take into consideration when choosing someone?
I would say there's probably a couple things. If you want to know, like I am having just this midwife and that's it, then I would say, try to choose a practice that has just one midwife in it. If you want a smaller practice, so for example, we have currently 5 midwives that work for primaries. And so what we try to do is rotate everybody clinically. So that way you've met your midwife before you come in labor. I'd say the main thing is probably going to be, we get a lot because of insurance. If you would like it covered, that would be one thing to look out for is, does your midwife take your insurance? The other one would be, of course, location based. Did you want to have a home birth, birth center, hospital birth? Other things to look for is, do you kind of mesh and gel with the people? Everybody's super different. So one of the things I usually say is meet with somebody and see if they are somebody that you feel like you can get along with. You don't have to be best friends with the person. So I'd say main things is, of course, we get a lot with insurance. And then practice location would be something to look into. Years of experience, potentially if they specialize in anything else. I would say those are kind of the main things I would look for.
I appreciate you also mentioning just the insurance coverage, because I feel like that always comes into play when it comes to healthcare and pregnancy and a baby, right? Like you want to have all of these supports, but oftentimes you don't know what insurance will and won't cover.
At Best Start, we actually do have a biller we recommend for some people who are thinking that they might be interested, but they don't know if their insurance is covered, is you can actually send a copy of your insurance card to our biller, and then she's able to look and see what your deductible is, what services are provided by your insurance, and then kind of break down, this is what's covered, this is not what's covered, this is what you would need to pay. And at times too, for example, like Kaiser insurance, you can only go to Kaiser if you have Kaiser insurance. We do have a separate cash fee for people who are maybe doing co-care with their other provider. We also have a sliding scale. So I would say, even though insurance is obviously a big part, and we know that babies definitely get expensive, then definitely ask, if my insurance is not covered, is there a sliding scale? Is there a payment plan? How can I get through this?
Do you have any other tips, suggestions, or recommendations for anyone that is wanting to work with a midwife? Or let's say they find someone, can they just bring their own, I'm going to assume no, but can they just bring their own midwife to the hospital? How does that work?
I have been asked that in the past. Unfortunately, no. So in order to work in a hospital setting, or for example, at our setting, you have to be credentialed at that specific location. Let's say you came to Best Start, but you wanted to be in the birth or in the hospital for whatever reason, then we cannot follow you there. You would have to transfer to whichever practice you decided on, or what practice we could help you get into. One of the things that we provide for a free service for anybody is we do tours that are in person. So if you wanted to come and get a tour of a birth center, then you can get a feel. We go through what's the difference between being in a birth center versus being in a hospital. And we show what our facilities are. We still have the same emergency equipment that a hospital would have. Home birth midwives do as well. So I usually tell people you can always start there, see if that's something that you're interested in. And you don't have to be pregnant to come. So if you're thinking in the future, we may want to have children and we're just trying to figure all that out now, you can definitely schedule that by just calling the Best Start Birth Center front desk line.
Well, thank you so much. And such a good point that you don't have to be pregnant, right? Because there's so much that happens once you're pregnant. I feel like the time goes by so fast and the to-do list just ripples and it's hard to get caught up. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I appreciate you taking time and sharing this.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. You can find us on Instagram for more updates and tips. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and give us a review if you like us.